So what are some things that we did to make the experience of working with and for Cat and Cloud easier in the context of being able to focus more on guest service hospitality while still putting out the best coffee we possibly can, which I believe is some of the best on planet Earth? Some simple things. We moved away from a ticket system, which minimized walking tickets to somebody or setting them somewhere. That's paper waste. That's some things we introduced the KDS system, which is a digital readout, which you've seen at fast food restaurants and other places. But in specialty coffee, that's a relatively new experience in the last 10 to 20 years. We specifically don't do pour over coffee. We do special coffee in smaller Cambros that we brew often, and so they're always hot, they're always delicious, and we offer 1 to 2 specialty coffee, which is like a more expensive option, single origin, really amazing, along with the answer, which is I'm just going to walk down the list because it's kind of fun to do. It's we created the answer, so we do single origin. Cool, you got that. Pour over's gone. Service up. Ability to talk about single origin coffee is great. They're also not like $3 more per cup. They're only like $1 more per cup. So we can allow people to taste more coffee, connect more. We first and foremost, though, created a flagship coffee called The Answer, which we use for milk-based espresso drinks. It's great as espresso by itself. It's in Americanos. And it's our house coffee. Why is that awesome? Well, it's a simplification and a buy-in on we can make amazing coffee that works both ways. And at the time when we opened, that wasn't a complete normalcy. It was you have one and the other. You have espresso-based drinks that go with this coffee, and then you have all your other coffee that goes with this coffee, unless you have diner coffee, which is typically less. So we introduced The Answer. Simple. One win, win, win.
That was on a what do you call it? Almost like this parabolic path to where if you rewind far enough, everybody did have a flagship coffee. And then as third wave coffee progressed, it was, you have Intelligentsia with their Black Cat, Stumptown with Hairbender. And
for espresso, right?
Yeah, but then they would also have something brewed. Like it wasn't uncommon to have a house coffee that was brewed. But then around maybe 2005, 2006,
it's about the time
specialty industry started to change, and all of a sudden it was totally not cool.
Only single origin
to have those house coffees.
Right.
No, it was terrible. It's just single origin only. Yeah, it's like
blends aren't good.
If you had a blend, like a properly developed blend on tap, you're basically like a fucking loser.
Yeah. There was a lot of hate on that.
There was a lot of shaming. There's some blend shaming going on.
There was blend shaming for a long time.
That whole thing got lost. And turns out the people before us had something figured out, which is having a coffee that's really well balanced, that does a lot of different duties, that's, familiar enough to be palatable to 80% of people and interesting enough to also be fun for those same people.
Yeah.
It's and coffee that you can enjoy and also bring home to grandma. And that's kind of amazing.
Wasn't it funny to have that conversation where like, look, we can't ever, very seldom do you find a single origin coffee that's as complex as putting together a well-made 2 to 3 bean, maybe even 4 bean blend. Why? Because they're single origin. There's a certain kind of terroir that in flavor, and you have to have a skill set to be able to balance a blend and make it actually taste good. Some coffees don't work together. They fight in a cup.
Yeah.
But through all the experience that we've had, we figured out some that work, and that's kind of where the answer came out. It's like, we're going to have a better overall drinking experience, which guest facing, that's the most important thing, if we make a blend. And also, we don't want to just blindly follow this industry of trends, which was at the time, you have single origin coffees and the blend is like your lesser than. It's like, let's lead with the blend and just kind of just establish that all of our coffees are fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Because
it's not
that's
better
true.
Or worse. It's just a different.
And it's always been that way. And I guess that's probably where you and I have always kind of been frustrated with pretty much anything.
Well, we
try to say what's better and worse, and we do that so much less than just staying different.
I feel like we just don't care as much about the way it looks to do the things that we're going to do, because a lot of those times in that era of single origin only, people are still serving espresso blends. There's still people drinking some blends coffee, even though it's not super cool or popular. And I think it was less about people not liking them and more about the what it meant,
Yeah, it wasn't
or
right.
how it made you feel, or your ego, basically. Like, oh no, we don't do that. It's no, that shit's just not cool. Like, I need to be quote unquote cool. The people
Yeah.
at the top of the food chain aren't doing that kind of
struggle with
shit.
that.
And you and I have both always poked a little bit of fun at that.
I'm pretty
and
averse to that idea. I mean, I get into it. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just averse to feel like if I were to say like, well, that's just the fucking coolest thing is because
yeah,
I hate doing that.
well,
Like unless I love it, I don't want to do that.
yeah, you're interesting because I
jump on shit I love hard.
You're an early adopter and you're a great ambassador for things that you're into, and
Yeah.
you like a lot of things. But
I
then
do like a lot of things.
once, I think it's things that this is my perspective
Yeah,
of you from the outside in, things that you're really close to and have a really deep passion for. Once you've gotten into them, you like them to be a certain way, and you have somewhat of a good, once you're in that zone, kind of bullshit detector for this is bullshit.
The authenticity goes or stays.
Yeah. And then you also like to share things. So if we're tying your desire to share experiences, when you're talking about sharing coffee, for you, it's less about cramming something down someone else's throat, but opening up the experience. So
I love sharing the experience.
Your ego is less inclined to be like, you need to drink single origin coffee because I went to Honduras, and more like, you should drink really good coffee, and there's a bunch of different kinds that you can drink.
Right.
Here's what we've created that is for everything, that works for everybody. And then I am just kind of obsessed with this thing that I'll call the truth or purity or whatever that means. And I approach that from, there's a lot of good different coffees. These people are telling you that only single origin coffees, you can only drink those and be a coffee connoisseur. Fuck that. You should have whatever you want. Whatever you want, and it'll make you feel good. And this is something that'll work for most people. And that is, like, I don't know, that mindset is kind of toxic, because once you buy in to whatever the rhetoric is, your brain closes down, because at that point you're not making decisions for yourself or your guests or the people around you. You're following some stupid industry trend, and you're completely out of control.
Right.
And we've seen that to where you're kind of at the whim of what the industry does. You don't have any of your own power. And that shit sucks.
That's our fun crossovers. Like you're like the hyper individualist purist, and then I am, but I'm like, let's go where I'm going, and then I'm gonna leave you to explore. Like I'm gonna take you somewhere better than you are now, I believe. And the reason is literally not because of me. It's because I believe that there's a better place to go. Now it's on you to figure out what's your shit. I just want it to be better than what I'm seeing you dive into now, because what you're diving into now is not where we could be. And that, you're totally right. Like I love to help and share the experience too. I love to watch people's eyes open. I like to go to Disneyland. It's like even though you didn't go on it, watching Rise of the Resistance, I know we're tangenting for a second, but watching Rise of the Resistance and seeing, even for somebody who's never seen it, we watched a YouTube video of this ride that's just kind of psychotic, and you're like, to watch you go, oh shit, that's crazy, that's huge, that's insane. And just that alone is part of it. Like if there was some way to have you not know what you were walking into and to do that thing by yourself, to watch somebody just go, holy shit, whatever that feeling is, I want to do that everywhere.
Yeah. It's a shared experience.
Totally. And I want to help people, because I just know how it feels to have something cool happen. And we talked about it all last week. So it's on the Atelier Cren. I mean, it's just like, it feels, I want people to feel good.
Well, those are the things at every level that make your life awesome or not.
I know.
It's the things that you do. I mean, I think there's something undoubtedly to having these big mega experiences.
Well, that's
right?
why they're
You're going to go to
mega.
Disneyland.
Sure.
So if you're going to have this big mega experience and you can do that, you should be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
Go to Disneyland, go on that Rise of the Resistance?
Yeah.
Which looks fucking insane.
Totally.
Like the craziest ride ever created, and I'm just watching this YouTube video being
genuinely
like,
probably
that's
is.
bonkers. I wish I was on the build team for that project, just to see behind the curtain a little bit. Just
Me
bonkers.
too, dude.
But then there's those, in combined with the things that happen every day shape your lives so much. Things like going to the coffee shop, going to get lunch, that 10 minutes of connection that you get with your friend throughout the day. Those moments are just so real, and that's where the power of the people that we're talking about really comes into play. It's like if you're someone's barista, if you see someone every day for 10 years, you watch their kids grow up. In our case, some of their kids work with you,
Shout out Young Reezy,
which
dude.
is nuts.
One of our most
It's
talented team members.
Those moments are incredibly powerful. You know, small moments over enough time, that's a good chunk of your life. Like you can really impact somebody. So when you're talking about, you know, improving people, bringing them along for this thing, don't take it for granted, those seemingly small things that you do. They're not really small at all.
No, I mean, and I think that's the callback to our team to hopefully recognize that. And that all of these things that are the small details, and all of your teams too, these small details and little, they're not even cheat codes or hacks. These are just directly simple, intentional opportunities that you have to make somebody's experience better, which will then change the course of their day, and they'll change the course of somebody else's day. We talk about this in our orientation. We picked the espresso machines and the coffee makers that we have specifically for reasons like that. Wipeable trays, ability to put pictures on them, ability to put pictures underneath them and kind of hide them and organize, ability to program shots so that you don't have to be on-offing all day as a barista. Yes, there is some awesome artistry. We both are barista champions. We get the ability to, and in fact, we were barista champions before you could use scales, the ability to be perfect as possible in the artistry. That is beautiful, gives me goosebumps. The Jiro dreams of sushi for coffee, awesome. We for sure lived that.
Yep. No scales, no timers.
No scales, no timers. Make it perfect. And we did. And we even did when we had the scales to check it before we felt comfortable using scales in competition. And we have Pete Licata watched us do it. And he's the world champion. And at the time he's like, you guys are really good. Like that is, I remember that day. It was so cool. He's all, that is impressive. We're like 19 and you're all 19-1 and vice versa. We do it all day long. He's all, you guys are a 1/10 of a gram off by feel.
Well, I remember training specifically for 2010, I think it was, maybe 2020. I think I did this every time. It was back when the grinders were still the little clicky.
Yeah, that'd probably be 10 maybe 11. Probably 10, because I think once 11 came around, we were Robert E-ing.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I would go in for training sessions and not make any espresso. I would just set up a grinder, have a portafilter, and I would turn the grinder on.
How many clicks? Yep. Oh, yeah, move it around, even distribution.
Count the clicks and do everything, and then just weigh it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would start over.
Yep.
And I would run through that for half hour, 45 minutes, and just getting a feel for everything. Like with the competition basket, it's a little different than the normal basket. And that was just for confidence, to where it's like, I know that my dose is within 1/10 of a gram every time. And you just program it into your brain.
Yeah.
You're just controlling all these variables.
Right.
Same thing with shot timers. We would practice with shot timers, but it was kind of this faux pas to have them up on the machine. So you practice enough with them, and then you do the thing where you kind of flip them around, have someone else stop them, and then you do the guess and check. And
so fun.
You get so on point. It is sick.
It's sick.
That feeling is sick. But it's got a different place.
I was going to say, but is that feeling for us, or is that feeling for the hundreds of guests who walk in and have to experience a longer experience, and they don't necessarily care or understand why you might be taking so much time without a scale, without this, without that? And you might argue, oh, well, it's actually going to be faster, but then your quality will go down if you don't ever check and you don't know. So we bought machines that will allow us to program 2 recipes into them. One for the answer, one for the truth, our other espresso. And we did that to help, to focus. We bought the grinders that were able to be hands-free dosed and that were as consistent as possible for the same reason. How can we get a flow going in every single place possible so that the most energy can be spent out there, not right here? And that is, without a doubt, has nothing to do with cutting the ability for us to create quality. The idea was, how can we keep the quality as high as possible, if not higher and more consistent, with lesser experienced baristas, and engage the guests?
Well, you are really cutting off You're shortening the learning curve.
Yes.
Because back in the day, a lot of being a barista was working around the equipment that was subpar. And that was a huge portion of training. Like, grinders weren't perfect, so you figure out how to work around the grinder. Even down to manually turning on and turning off the grinder with little waste. Now everything's push button. You know, you don't have any waste. We have very little.
You can have very little waste
to no waste
if you're tuned in.
You know, machines aren't starting and stopping themselves. Machines don't have scales built in. Everything's really inconsistent and weird. Even if you remember, man, if you ever worked on a heat exchanger machine, you would
hotter, colder.
You do temperature surfing, which is the heat exchange machine has only the one big steam boiler with this little tube that runs through it. That's the heat exchanger. That's the water that comes out of the group head. So, because if you didn't use the machine for a while, that tube sitting in the steam boiler, which is hot as fuck, the first water that you purge through the group head out would
nearly
be
boiling.
super, and it would boil.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then you'd run it long enough to where it would calm down.
Yeah.
And if you worked on a machine like that, you would temperature surf, where you had a certain purge and flush routine that you were kind of dialing in the brew water temperature on the fly to where it's not super boiling and not too cold, and it would be different depending on how busy it was. So if it was slow, you'd have to purge more.
Yep.
If you were on a clip, you wouldn't really want to purge that much because then the water would be going through there super fast. Yeah. So that's what being a barista was.
Right.
You're just working around crappy equipment. And
we have a machine that literally purges for 3 seconds for you by a push button.
Yeah. Bonkers. Whoa.
On and off for you. And temperature stability, perfect. Near perfect.
It's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
So that shortens the learning curve. Then you have you kind of have to manage the other side of that coin, to where it's when you have to work around the equipment so much, you're paying attention all the time. You have to. Now it's easier to not pay as much attention
to the coffee portion.
Correct. Of it.
Yeah.
So it's easier to get things that line up. I got the right dose, I got the right output, but it's just completely fucked up tasting.
Yeah.
Because I got channels going on, or I'm just doing haphazard things.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it is easier to get people up to speed for sure. And it does provide a more consistent experience, because there is less difference between the worst barista and the best barista on staff. Or maybe that's the wrong words. The newest and the most experienced.
Yeah, you can close the gap quite a bit quicker.
The gap is closed.
Yeah.
There's less of a range.
And you're always going to have that. That's experience. Like the best, most experienced barista should be your best, most experienced barista if they care, and hopefully they do. So what are some of the other things that we do and we tell our team that help? One thing that you may or may not know is that bathrooms are a staple of judgment for me when I go somewhere. If I go into a bathroom and it's beat up and hag and it smells bad, I don't feel as good. And so for Cat and Cloud, the dream is, and the work is, our bathrooms don't smell bad and our bathrooms are clean and stocked. And while there's no perfect, like, you can't be perfect, one of the ways that we attack this is, and shout out / call out to our team if you've never heard this before, totally cool, we're hearing it now. If you go into the bathroom to use it, you also briefly clean it and restock it. Every time. Every time. I am now 5 for 5 trips to the bathroom, 5 for 5 changing toilet paper when I didn't need it, because that's what we do here. That's not me being cool. That's not, and then this is not also a call out. It's more of a call to action. I actually don't think our team is slacking on this. I think that this is going to happen no matter what. What's cool about this? When everybody's on it, the guests are always experiencing a nice bathroom. I leave that bathroom and I spray the little thing not because any other reason, just because the next person that walks in, it's going to be fresh no matter what. And it's going to have full stock toilet paper. There's going to be no trash on the floor. It's going to not smell at all. It's going to smell like what we want it to smell like. It's intentional. And then that's it. It's a really simple opportunity. Everybody's going to use the bathroom at least once a day on shift. If you have 5 people working at a time, tops, even if you have 3, you multiply 3 by 2, that's 6 cleanings, aside from your scheduled ones, which should happen before and or after a break, depending on how it works. You have no excuse to not have clean bathrooms when you have people who work together. And that is such a simple, I'll call that a hack. That's a simple hack that should happen for every cafe. If you never thought about that, there's your opportunity. Just because you're going on break or you're taking a 10,
And then you never have to clean a really dirty bathroom.
That's the best part.
That's the best
Who wants
part.
to clean the really fucked up bathroom at the end of the day because you wet it? Or even the one after a 6-hour slammer morning Saturday shift where it's just trash everywhere, trash cans full. This is an opportunity that you could impose everywhere. If you're going to go to the bathroom, cool. Every time I go to the bathroom, walk out, check the trash, go to the bathroom, fix that. You don't have to take it all the way out to the trash can. Just maybe replace the trash bag, stock the condiment bar,
There's
go to
all
the
those
bathroom.
little things. It's like I can't walk by the bar without pushing the chairs in.
I know, dude. We just did it.
freaks me the fuck out. Do you see people walk by and there's chairs in all kinds of disarray? It's like, dude, tuck those bad boys in and peek them out a little bit so it looks inviting for someone to sit in, but make them all lined up in
Make
a
it
row.
intentional.
And the thing is, the bathroom's fucked up because the bathroom turned you into a fucking liar because anybody can fake the front of house. Be like, oh, this place is nice. They got the nice design, a nice table. And you go into the bathroom, they're like, oh, they don't give a shit at all.
This thing is blown
They
up
don't
all
care.
day.
Yep, they're not worried about it.
Yeah. So
Don't be a liar.
don't be a fucking liar, dude.
Don't be a fucking liar.
Those are some of the most specific, simple things. The other thing you can do is set standardized drink sizes, and then you can always offer more, but you don't have to necessarily talk more. But whatever. That's like not even that cool. that's just a
it's
thing.
not cool. It's just you're talking about
It's more operational.
simplicity
Yeah.
and service, and we struggle with this sometimes because we have a whole influx of newer people. So it can be challenging to figure out what the language is, right?
Right.
So what you're talking about is not asking a size. You have a default size. Because if you're ordering coffee, you don't want to be fucking interrogated. Oh, if I walk into the coffee shop and say, I'll have a cup of coffee.
Large or
like,
small?
Okay, do you want 8, 12, or 16 ounces? I don't know, 12, I guess. Like, okay, cool. Do you want for here to go? I'm going to have it to go. Okay, cool. Do you want this coffee, this other coffee, or that other coffee? I'm like, I don't know. Do they all cost the same amount? Like, what is it? It's just fucking out of control. To where it's like, what's the answer? I'll have a cup of coffee. Okay, cool. You want it for here to go? That's all I need to know.
Right.
That's it. Great.
Got it.
And then you can allow them to ask their own questions, which they will over time. You don't need to blast them with information. Someone goes in the coffee shop a couple of times. Oh, what did I get yesterday? I see you have these 3 pots out here. What's this? Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, this is the answer. It's our go-to flagship blend. And then we also have these single origins.
Yeah.
Anything you do like that, it's okay to serve those things with the confidence in yourself and in the product. So something I see happen a lot is, I'll have coffee. Do you have a medium roast? Well, it's like we have this one, which is a single origin.
It's like a
which is
light
little bit
medium,
more
this is
light
like a medium dark.
and this is kind of it's like, yeah. Do you have a medium roast? Okay, cool. You'll like the answer. It's our flagship blend. Everybody loves it. It's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Boom, medium roast. Cool. You're really...
And you're not doing anything wrong.
You're not doing anything wrong because you're telling the truth. They're asking for something, and they might not be using your exact language, but that's where your intuitive service animal needs to come alive and be like, oh, okay, I see what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
This person is asking for this. I'm going to give it to them. They don't need the whole 45-second information spiel, which is just going to confuse the fuck out of them. If they're not already speaking your language and then you gunshot them, like shotgun with them your language, they're gonna be like, I don't fucking know what I want, dude. I just wanted you to give me some good coffee, and now you're treating me like an asshole.
I mean, the simplest way to answer that question too, for anybody who is out there, it's, do you have a medium roast? Yeah, we have the answer, and if it's not dark enough for you, we have a lighter one and a darker one, but this is your jam. And then they can come back after they taste it, before they leave. Especially important, if this person's never had your coffee before, they can come back and say, most of the time, that's super good, or they'll leave and be happy, or they'll come back and say, I'd like it darker. Seldom do they want something lighter.
See, I wouldn't even give them the option.
I know.
I would just be like, this is the answer.
It usually, the only reason I'm saying that is for the person who can come in and be like, do you have a, so even if they ask for the dark roast, I'll give them the answer. And that's why I say that, because some people, our goal is to get people to enjoy what we believe is one of our favorite iterations of the coffee, which is the answer, the house coffee. We want people to go there, and if they're coming from a place where they're so used to like a really dark, oily, fish oil tasting coffee, you want them to get their gateway. I want them to get their gateway drug experience, and that's where we go there. So I don't go lighter so much. I go darker. Like we can go darker if you want, but this is the one I suggest.
See, okay, here's a example where I think there might be multiple ways to solve this service issue in a couple different ways. So that makes sense. Like what you just said is definitely not wrong.
Especially if they know.
If someone came in and let's say this used to happen a lot in the past. Yeah. People come in and say, I drink Pete's Major Dickinson's. Like they call it out by name, which I know is really dark. I'm like, it's not even dark for Pete's, but it's way darker than anything we have. It is
oil. Yeah, we can't even get there.
I'd be like, okay, cool. You should try our night shift, and I'll give them the night shift, but then I'll sample them like 3 ounces of the answer in like a little tiny espresso to-go cup. Be like, this is going to be most like what you drank. And then also, this is our flagship. Just take a sip of it. It's super good.
Give it a go.
Just
first one's free.
Then they have like this comfort zone.
Right.
Also, they get to explore a little bit at, there's they don't
no
lose.
pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Absolutely no pressure.
Yeah. I think that what we're talking about is really awesome, right? It's an understanding of where we're trying to go. And this is, to me, like a perfect example of when you want to inspire connection by creating a memorable experience, the way you just said it and the way I just said it are both yeses, but they allow us to express ourselves how we would. And the person leaving is like none the wiser. Michael Weiser, shout out for editing this. But they're happy either way.
They're happy either way, as long as you do it with a confidence and their best interest in mind.
Exactly.
You can't be soft about it.
And it's not about us
either.
If
you tried to give them the answer, even though it's a lot lighter than what they normally get, and they're like, well, we don't really have anything that dark, but this is our flagship, and most people like it. Their mindset is like, okay, I'm not going to like this because it's not exactly what I'm asking for. But if you give it to them, oh, you're going to love the answer. It's our flagship blend. Everybody loves it. And slide it across the counter, look them in the eye, and smile. They're going to be like, yeah, I fucking love this shit. It feels great.
Tip number 1779 in this thing. Serve everything with confidence. They expect you to be the professional because you are the coffee house person. So
I don't understand the lack of confidence that comes along with being a barista. And we haven't talked about this in orientation, but we used to talk about it.
Maybe that's worth like a touch base and just confidence in general.
Confidence in...
Is that a value?
Dude,
do we just need to up our values to 6?
Let's just keep adding values on there.
I think that could fit somewhere already.
I think confidence is empathy and intentionality.
It's empathy and intentionality.
Because nobody wants to be served by someone who is not confident in what they're doing, because that's not professional. That's not being, you're not being taken care of.
Yeah.
If we went back to the Disney thing and, let's say you got in line for the Rise of the Resistance ride, and the person who greeted you was like, hey, this is our new ride. We're still kind of working some kinks out. It's a little weird. You might see some stuff that's wrong over here, but it's cool. I know you guys paid like $300 to be here, so I hope you have a good time.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck,
They're
dude?
like, you're out of character, dude. Hell no.
Yeah, you're out of character.
You're out of
exactly.
character.
You're not putting on the show. I came here for the show, and I'm not getting the show.
This is not the show I signed up for.
So we need to put on the show at every level.
Right.
And we used to see this all the time in espresso. People are really self-conscious about their espresso.
They still are.
So people are serving espresso
it's
with
our fault
excuses.
For being,
which
us.
Shout out to Sean White. He was like coming correct back in the day. You'd be like serving
not
him coffee.
The snowboarder.
Like, no,
the ceramicist.
Not the snowboarder. The ceramicist artist extraordinaire. This one pulled a couple seconds too short, and I was in the middle of the dial-in, and he's like, I'll have my espresso without the excuses. Thank you.
That's the best line ever.
Dude. Whatever you're serving, serve it with authority. Serve it with a smile. Here's your espresso.
Serve your best espresso.
It's going to be awesome. Your best espresso in that moment. Once you start making excuses for the product that you're serving, you're breaking that bond of trust that you have, and you're being seen as not like a professional.
Right.
And the analogy we used to use was, what if you went to a restaurant? You sat down and you ordered something even basic, like a hamburger. You ordered a hamburger, and the server's like, brings out the hamburger, like, okay, cool, here's your hamburger. Yeah, the meat's not quite as good as it was yesterday. It's actually 1 day older than we want it to be, and I know you wanted it medium rare. This is a little on the dark side. I think he over grilled it, and the onions aren't as crisp as they could be. But here you go, have a good time with your hamburger.
Enjoy your burger.
I don't want to fucking eat that. Get that shit out of here, dude. So why is that okay to do it with your espresso?
Great question.
It's not.
It's not. It's all the lack of confidence.
Yeah, if you've had proper training and you're paying attention, that espresso that you serve is going to be just fine. And if that one espresso is not just fine, if you're not where you need to be when you're dialed in, you need to get out your fucking mirror and look at that shit. Because what does that mean? Oh, I haven't been paying attention for the last half hour, and now someone ordered straight espresso, and I got to get on point real quick.
Right.
Hey, how about you just fucking stay on point
Stay
all
dialed,
day,
if you
because
will.
it's way more engaging and way more fun anyway.
It's way more
and
fun.
espresso goes in every drink, so sure, it gets watered down in a latte, but you're telling me you don't want to put good espresso in that latte?
You don't want to put your
think
best
that
espresso?
latte is going to be better with the best possible espresso in it? You got to be fucking out of your mind.
The base ingredient? Yeah. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
There's no fucking way.
Come on.
It's just.
Isn't that infuriating?
I get it. I totally can resonate with that feeling, with you knowing it's not 100% as perfect as it could be.
I mean, we have to live with that.
What's the best in that moment? And
You're not your 100% as best you can be every day either. Nobody is. That's human life.
You're just there. And when we're talking about inspiring confidence, how does it look if I go in and order espresso and the barista, who is really well-intentioned and wants to do the best job possible, pulls a shot and is like, oh, this isn't the one, and dumps it out. And then they pull it again, and then they make an adjustment, and then they pull it again, and all of a sudden they've pulled 4 shots. And I'm watching this person pulling shot after shot after shot.
With their body language getting worse every shot,
none
right?
of which they're serving, and I'm like, this person has no idea what they're doing.
Right.
I don't want to drink this espresso because this person's not in control of their machine.
Yeah.
Clearly not in
They haven't even
control.
been paying attention.
Yeah.
Or they're like, oh, now they care about the coffee because I ordered an espresso for the first
Exactly.
time? Oh.
And then by the time that 4th or 5th
place
shot
sucks.
comes, even if it is perfectly dialed in, my mindset is so fucked that I'm like,
enough
I'd
is
rather
enough.
pass.
Ya
Yeah.
basta.
Yeah, later, man.
As the guys said in that one movie.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
having that confidence
Take
is
that
key.
confidence to the whole bean game too. And people will ask you, you've got a flagship blend, always have that. If you work somewhere, here's what you do. You don't know all the coffees yet because you just started. Totally fair. I wouldn't either. Or maybe I'm actually might know more than you expect because I'm a geek about that. But even if you're not on that level, what you can do is whoever's training you, you can say, hey, what's your favorite coffee besides for us, like the answer, the main blend? What's your favorite coffee that we have right now? You can put that in the back of your mind. And then if anybody asks, hey, whole bean coffee, what are the ones? You have 2 coffees that are there already, right? Like you used to dial in, like we used to dial in. We just get the motions down so perfect that we knew this thing is this thing. And that's what you can do. It's like, cool, you know that your trainer's favorite coffee is the Ethiopia Baridi and the answer is the flagship coffee. So when somebody asks, there's no hesitation. I love the answer. It's a great blend. And I love the single origin Ethiopia Baridi. Those 2 coffees are my favorite. They're awesome. And this is something that you all have no excuse not to do. You already know at least one of the coffees at the coffee company that you're working at. And if you don't, then they hired you because you must be awesome. You can learn them pretty quick. It's like there's no excuse for this. And it really does go such a long way. Most of us don't have enough connective time around the whole bean shelf. So your next level is how well can you memorize pricing? Awesome. But your first simple level, just have 2 coffees, a single origin one and the other. And then you can go from there and learn and actually have your personal favorite. It's okay to not know. It's not okay to act like you don't know anything.
Well, you have to realize what question 8 out of 10 people are asking you. The question is, what they're saying is, which coffee do I buy?
They just want validation.
They're not
right?
saying, tell me everything about every single
Right.
coffee. Most of them are, I want to buy coffee. I know this. I just want to know I'm getting something good.
Right.
So tell me what that is, and then I'll be happy.
Right.
And then you have 20% who are bona fide coffee geeks who probably know a little bit about the coffee. They want to talk more about the nuance, and that's fine too. But in either case, if you show up with authority, feeling empowered because you not are faking it, but actually did your homework,
Right.
it's going to be great. You're going to feel more comfortable. They're going to feel more comfortable. It's going to be more fun. You don't have to lie and pretend that you drank the burrito when you've really never had it, and you're just looking at the label. They're like, that one's floral, maybe a little citrus.
Here's the other thing too. If a coffee geek person, maybe geek's the wrong word to use, but it's the one we've used for so long. If a super intense coffee enthusiast comes to your shop, they probably already know why they're there. It is okay for you to respond to somebody. If I came in and I'm asking a ton of questions and you're brand new, you can just be like, look, I haven't gone through every training yet. I'm pretty new here. I'm learning a lot. These are my two favorites. Do you want to know more? I can get somebody over there who knows more, or not even or. That's enough, because the person who's coming to Cat and Cloud, who has followed this podcast, who knows that he and I are barista champions, who knows that we're national finalists and we were on the pages and the things and stuff, they already know in a general sense what they're looking for. Check out those trophies. You know what's funny? This is where like you and I differ. I have kept 0 of my trophies.
It's so weird.
The only things I've kept, and it's just really because I actually thought they were cool, is my championship tampers. Like I've kept nothing else. And this one is actually the original tamper that we made at Verve that my girls flowered. But it says Verve. It was the first tamper ever made. Sean White actually made this one, and then I put a different convex. Anyway, all that to say, they already know, and actually that just hit me with one other thing that we do and did to simplify our menu to help with this. We, with the exception of a naturally processed coffee, will have one coffee from one country on our menu at a time. Why is that? Kind of the same reason you were just talking about, which is I come in and I'm like, wow, they have 7 Colombian coffees. And then you have to talk to the person and be like, which is the best Colombian you have on tap right now? Or in Holbein, I want to get my favorite Colombian. And if you're one of those companies, start back where I just started, which is pick one. And hopefully it's the one you actually love. But if you don't know, pick one and just tell them that's the one, because that's better than, I don't know, there's 7 of them. And this one tastes like this, and this one tastes like that, and this one tastes like this, and this one tastes like that, and this one's from Huila, and this one's from Cauca, and this one's from Nariño, and this one's from a subregion of Nariño. And it's like, okay, which Colombian's the best? Because that's a lot of stuff you just told me. We actually intentionally decided that we were going to minimize our menu so that if you want a Colombian coffee, that's the one. If you want a Guatemalan coffee, that's the one. If you want a naturally processed coffee, that's the one. Or you can get one in one of these blends. But that's our single origin, naturally processed coffee, typically. And sometimes we have 2 naturals. One of them's from Costa Rica and the other one's from Ethiopia. But they're different regions. That's such a good opportunity. And I know it's not perfect and simple for all y'all who are green buyers, but it's definitely achievable. And it's more achievable than you might realize. And if you think past, you're allowed to get whatever you want. So there's no wrong way to do this, meaning like if we want to have 6 Honduran coffees on the menu at one time, I might want to do that, but I have a reason. We would tell a pretty specific story about each one, and we have the details. I feel
like that would be something fun that you would run for like a month or 2.
But you wouldn't do that year round.
You make it an experience. Okay, this month we're focusing on Honduras.
Right.
And then you can put a name to the face, and people understand what who Wilson Morales is, who Damian Chavez is.
And we'll have all the relationships and the truth to back it up.
Well, when I think of all the different coffees and trying to choose between one of 5 coffees from Colombia, I just don't want to feel like I made the wrong choice. I don't want to feel like I missed out.
Yes.
I want to feel like I want a coffee from Colombia. This is the one to get. Cool. I'm going to be super happy. It's that law of diminishing return. When you increase possibility, there's a stress that comes along with it. It's like, oh my gosh, there's 4 different versions of the same thing, and I'm about to spend $20, and I'm like, yeah.
You're like my wife.
It's a stress increase. Yeah.
Brittany and you, it's like you do not want to have buyer's remorse.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, cannot have buyer's remorse.
I love to figure stuff out, and it is so, even though I think I want the choice, it is so helpful when that's the thing.
Oh, it's so nice.
And that's why, knowing that about myself, I've had to change the way I do a lot of things. So now for me, there's nothing more valuable than a recommendation from someone I trust, because I just don't have enough time to explore all of the things that I'm interested in and dive deep. And when people know shit, hey, I'm interested in this. You know all about that. Just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And then
it's the best
I've just
feeling.
had to let go a little bit, and that's been hard, but it's way tighter.
I enjoy that.
The guest is feeling the same thing,
Take me on that journey with you, please.
Yeah. You go fucking to the winery and see a wine list, and it's like 8 Syrahs.
Right.
All of wineries that you've never heard of before.
And you don't want to just pick the most expensive one. We've actually experienced that too. It's really geisha, for example, just because we're just diving into all the coffee stuff. Like geisha, to ourselves and to people who can taste the nuance and want to taste a light roasted coffee, is really fun most of the time. It's oftentimes, though, for people who don't buy into what we do, not worth the money that it costs to buy a geisha. I think they are worth a lot of the money that we would pay for them, because I totally get it. When I'm on a cupping table and there's a geisha, 90% of the time you can either tell it's a geisha or you say that's the best coffee on the table because it's really unique. However, I have more often than not experienced guests coming in and saying, what's the best coffee? And then the people behind the counter send them to the $50+ coffee. I'm like, whoa, that's $30, if not more than I spend on the most expensive coffee I ever spent. Are you sure? Yes. Best coffee on earth. And they go home and it's not different enough. It's not mind-blowing enough for the guest. And that buyer's remorse for somebody who doesn't spend a lot on coffee, who decides to go for it, is not worth the squeeze. And I don't have necessarily a solution for that. It's just something that is, it's niche. It's for the people like me who would come into the cafe and this dude will appreciate it.
Yeah, that's the solution.
And
the
that's
solution
being
is,
a good
is,
service
is
person.
Being aware.
Yeah.
And being empathetic of who you're talking to.
Hospitality.
The solution is paying attention.
Yes.
To where some rando comes in and, I just want the best coffee. What's the best coffee? Versus someone who comes in and is speaking the language. If you don't know what geisha is, a variety of coffee that was, native to Ethiopia somewhere, was lost forever, and then popped back up in Panama.
Now we're planting it everywhere.
Hacienda Esmeralda.
Right.
And this mystery variety won Best of Panama several years in a row before anybody looked into what the fuck is this thing that's
I should plant this.
Scoring way higher than any other coffee and is just blowing people out of the water and tastes completely different. So, and even geisha now, that's on its own little track too, to where rewind 10 years, there's a very limited supply and where it came from. Usually it's somewhere in Boquete in Panama. Or,
somewhere around there.
And now everywhere.
I mean, they've got the
incredibly
seeds,
different qualities, and you
different
can,
terroirs,
and when you
different
taste
everything.
you can always taste the geisha-ness of it. I agree with you. When you
some
cup
sort
it,
of
you're like,
floral,
okay,
rainbow
that's
Skittles
a geisha. Rainbow
thing.
Skittles is
Sprite,
a good way
maybe.
to put it.
Yeah, it's like,
but then there's not all of it is as good as the price point would suggest.
No, sometimes just an amazing washed Ethiopian will outscore it.
100%.
Or other coffees.
So, but yeah, if someone comes in and is speaking the language, then okay, they're talking about varietals. They're talking about growing regions.
They're wearing their coffee shirt.
They're in the game. Okay, they're in the game. I can kick it to them.
Yeah.
And I can even claim the price. Hey, this is the shit.
Yeah.
It's also $50, but it's fucking awesome. And it seems like you're in that zone.
Right.
So,
it's bonkers.
Yeah.
But
just so they don't have sticker shock at the register.
I know, right?
Because that always sucks too. And that's the shitty thing, which you just reiterated. I just realized that our podcast is like, you say one thing one way, then I say it the same thing.
I think that's what it's always been, though.
And then we go back and forth, like, somebody leads and then somebody follows and then it flip-flops. And
that's good, though. It's our perspective.
How crappy is that when someone comes in and is like, I want the best coffee, and then they show up to the register, they're like, $67.35. Like, what?
Well, maybe not this one, actually. Well, I just ground it for you.
And then they don't want to feel like they're a chump, or, well, I don't want to be the guy that seems like I can't afford it or take it back.
Right.
Or so maybe I'll just buy it and I'll be angry for 4 days and then never come back to that coffee shop.
Man, we have talked about so many fun little things with good tangents. I think it's just been like a really nice coffee talk. Hey, that's the end of the podcast. Thanks for listening. I know this is the time, the shameless, classic, we need your help, but we do want to get our message out there, and we do want to share this with a lot of people. So if you could share this with others, you could subscribe, you could rate, you could review. It would greatly help us as we continue to push through not only the YouTube as it's fresh, but also the general podcast as we took nearly an entire year off from doing it. And so please do so, share it. I believe that we have some information and some perspectives that could help not only people in the coffee industry, but people in any industry, any walk of life. So do us that favor, do us that solid, bring us that love, and turn up for us, please. And I hope you all have a great time. Thanks for listening.